school juniors and seniors are thinking about what they want to do after graduation. Making the decision about what to do next can be tough. For those who want to continue their education, finding a college or university that is a good fit for them can be stressful at times. Welcome to Bison Talk. I'm Kim Shadoan, and today I'm talking with Reggie Blair, Senior Director of Admissions at Lipscomb University, who's going to shed some light on what can often be an overwhelming process for high school students and their parents. Reggie, thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's hard to believe, as we were talking just a minute ago, that we're like halfway through the fall semester. And, this has been anything but a normal, typical fall semester. But I know there are a lot of things that high school seniors and juniors need to be thinking about, as they've hit October. And just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what some of those things are that students need to be thinking about. So why don't we start with, what do high school seniors and juniors need to be thinking about here in the middle of October?
Well, let me tell you, COVID has definitely thrown everyone for a loop. I think I can speak for every school in the country when I can say adjustments are being made all over the place. And so I think what students need to do, since so many of them are spending time at home, really leveraging that time and taking the opportunity to look at the deadlines for the schools, and then also look at the opportunities the schools are offering for virtual visits. Many schools are offering opportunities for students to hop on virtual visits to learn more about their institution, whether that be their athletics or the academics that are offered, or information about the honors college or campus life in general. And I think sometimes students are getting somewhat burnt out, with just so many virtual opportunities. But since that's the world we live in right now, you don't want to dismiss those. You really want to look into those and see what the schools that you're interested in are offering. And then I think the biggest thing is paying attention to deadlines and timelines, because even though we're living in a virtual world right now, that doesn't mean that the schools are changing their deadlines, or if they are, you need to be aware of those deadlines. So like, for instance, for us, we're going to be accepting students in November. We have a financial priority deadline December 1st. There's a lot of scholarship deadlines that are upcoming in January, February. FAFSA right now, students need to be filing the FAFSA. They could start that October 1st. So paying attention to each school's deadlines, regardless of what the deadlines are for, is really, really key.
Yeah. And so what are you hearing from high schools, juniors and seniors that maybe are calling? I mean, are there some things that they're particularly worried about right now that maybe they don't normally worry about, just because everything is such a kind of a different landscape right now?
I think the biggest thing that we're hearing is students' uncertainty about being able to take standardized tests. So ACT, SAT, CLT is a great option because they offer the ability to remote proctor. It's a classical learning test. It's pretty popular with classical schools and homeschoolers, but it is one of those tests that there are some offerings for. But ACT and SAT, I've seen numerous times where those scheduled opportunities to take those tests have been canceled. So I think students are really worried about that. So looking into if there are any scholarship opportunities tied to students having those standardized tests, that's really important. But also finding out if those schools are being test optional, which most of the ones that I know of are offering a test optional route, meaning that the student does not have to submit standardized test scores. They'll be evaluated in other academic factors, but they'll need to make that decision on whether or not they want to be test optional before they're admitted. And so exploring what test optional means for the particular school the student is interested in.
And Lipscomb, I know this year is test optional. And I know that we'll probably just have to wait until we see what happens in the next few months about, if that's going to continue into future years or not. But so I know a lot of options are out there too for 2-year schools and 4-year institutions like Lipscomb. What is it that, if you were advising a student that they might consider, what the benefit of a 4-year education like we offer here at Lipscomb?
Yeah, I think it depends on the student. Not every student is necessarily ready to go to a 4-year institution, or it just might be more financially feasible for them to start off at a 2-year institution. And whatever fits their particular circumstance, that's fine. I think the biggest thing that students need to look at is they need to factor two things. They need to factor the type of environment that's going to help them excel the most, right? And then put a game plan together. So if your game plan is, hey, maybe I need to save some money, based on my family circumstance, it's more feasible for me to go to a 2-year institution. That's great. I think that's fantastic. I also think, when you're planning that, ultimately, if you want to obtain a bachelor's degree, or the type of degree that you need to be successful in your career is a bachelor's degree, don't just say, okay, I'm going to a 2-year institution and that be it, and I figure it out when it comes. Start as soon as you're interested in that 2-year institution, looking at, okay, what are my pathway opportunities for when I finish this degree to smoothly transition into a 4-year degree. Don't start taking classes at a 2-year institution and not look at how those classes will translate over to that 4-year degree, because you don't want to waste any extra time, or lose any scholarship eligibility because you end up having to take classes over. So I think that's good. I mean, I think that's something that needs to be considered. But I think especially in the midst of a pandemic, we really cannot stress enough how important it is to consider the type of environment. I feel blessed to be at Lipscomb, because I feel like, for the most part, all the administration and the students are taking the safety very seriously. Everybody wants everyone to be well. And so, having that supportive environment, and having a place that really wants to walk alongside you and kind of have a mentoring relationship, and faculty and staff that are just like, whatever we can do to support our students, it really does. Even though things are so, like, you can't see everybody all the time with the mask, and you can't, it makes you feel comfortable as far as getting your homework done, and like being in a place where you feel supported. And if you don't feel supported in a place that you're going to school, chances are you're not going to be successful. So,
Right.
I mean, those are the things that I would think about.
Yeah. And I know another, big factor when students are selecting a college or university is what they want to do for a career. And yet, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, it's sometimes difficult. I mean, some of us know what we want to do, from the time we're young, and then others, have no idea. But that does play an important role, I think, sometimes when selecting a college. But, for maybe that student who doesn't know, what they want to pursue. I mean, I think a school like Lipscomb Liberal Arts Institution may be a good place to start.
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to downplay at all. I think students need to, I mean, if you're going to a school to major in something, I think that's important for you to consider, okay, what is going to be the best advantage for me from a career perspective, or what school is going to, prepare me the most from an academic standpoint, or just giving me opportunities for internships or co-ops or things of that nature. You really want to consider those things. But I think you should also look at, okay, if my, maybe I want to be an engineer and I'm, pretty good at math, maybe that might be the goal. But I think you also need to look at, okay, if for some reason I got into engineering and I didn't like it, would there be anything else that I might be interested in? And you select a school that gives you some other options that, if engineering didn't pan out, you would still enjoy your time at that school, and then also find something that would be a really, really good fit for you.
No, that's good. And I know, you mentioned a campus visit, and I know that, is such an important part of the recruiting process for students. And, right now things look a little different, but I mean, like Lipscomb, we're still having in-person visits. So, tell me a little bit about the importance of that and how that's working in this really strange time.
Yeah, we're still having visits, but not in the same capacity as that we normally have visits. As we had to cancel all of our Lipscomb Fridays, like our big open houses. We're finally getting an opportunity to have one. I'll just plug this. So on November 13th, during our preview week, it's a Friday. It'll be our first Lipscomb Friday that we're having. But the cap is 60 people, including guests, so it has to be smaller, and we're going to divide it up so we can social distance. Even our daily visits are capped at 30 students, and then we split them up just so we can social distance. So it's not what we would typically have, but we really want to be sensitive, and we want to, care for others and do what we can to show as much care and caution during this pandemic. But there's some schools that are not offering visits at all, like literally. Not at all. And just depending on the state circumstance, it just might not be conducive to their institution. But we're fortunate enough. There's a lot of outdoor space, and we're able to social distance, and students still want to come, but we do have to cap it, and
Yeah.
you know, our philosophy in times past has been come one, come all, as many students
Yeah.
as we can get. We'll pack them in, but we really can't do that.
So in the absence of being able to do some of that, like specifically at Lipscomb, what would you recommend if a student is really wanting to know more? And I know that our recruiting team, they're phenomenal in just the relationships that they build. So would you maybe recommend just, maybe scheduling just a one-on-one Zoom meeting, or how would they go find more information about Lipscomb?
Again, I think that plays into looking to see what opportunities the school provides. So, for
Mhm.
instance, every Friday we offer virtual academic department meetings at 2 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So, no matter what your academic discipline of interest is, you can learn more, and those are smaller meetings. On average, we have maybe 3 or 4 students per department. So it's a really great time to build a relationship with the faculty member and have more of a personal connection and get all your questions answered. We have visits. I mean, we have virtual department. I mean, virtual visits. So students can, just have virtual information sessions. We offer those in the afternoon, every day. So Monday through Friday, you can go in the afternoon and do a virtual information session and learn more about the institution. If you're a transfer student, we offer those once a week or twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon. So you can get information about that. If you're interested in honors, we offer information session every Tuesday around 1:30, where you can log on and you can learn about honors. So we've really done our due diligence to put the information out
Mhm.
there for students to access virtually, so they can still get the information that they're seeking. And even with our recruiters, with our admissions counselors, if you go to our website, there's a counselor finder there. You can reach out to them, and all of them are willing to set up a one-on-one meeting with you if you have specific questions that are specific to your personal circumstance, or you just want a one-on-one time. They'll be more than willing to do that. So those things are there. They're available. They're there. It's just you need to go and look and see what opportunities exist for the institution you're interested in. If it's
Right.
Lipscomb, trust me, they're there. They exist. You can go to our visit page, lipscomb.edu/visit. You'll see all those virtual visit opportunities and a slew of other virtual resources that you can tap into.
Maybe one final question as our time is about up. I know that sometimes there's a financial barrier, and sometimes students just they're not sure if they can afford, a college education, a Lipscomb education. What would you recommend there for students who may be afraid that well, maybe I can't afford college?
I would say you have to look at the trajectory of schools all across the country. There's so many schools, and tuition is rising everywhere. So it's not isolated to just one institution. All schools are trying their best to mitigate the cost and make schools as affordable as possible for students, because it's our business, right? It's what we do. But what you should not do is you should not say, I'm not going to apply to this school because I don't think I'd get enough financial aid. We want to work with every single student, and we'll look at every student situation individually to see what we can do to make it possible for them to attend. But they have to do their part.
Hmm.
So they definitely need to file a FAFSA if they're able to file a FAFSA. They need to communicate with their admissions counselor and give them as much information as possible about the situation that they're in, and then also the things that they're good at, their accolades, some of the distinctives, because there might be some scholarship opportunities tied to those that they might not know about, but they haven't provided us any information.
Hmm.
Like, for example, there's a scholarship for Eagle Scouts in Girl Scouts who get their gold award. There's a lot of students that don't know that exists. But if you don't talk to your admissions counselor and say, hey, here's my situation, here's my GPA, here are some of the things that I'm involved in, it's likely there's so many students that are applying to the university. Unless you take some initiative and build that relationship with your admissions counselor and say, hey, here's my situation, I want to be at Lipscomb, here's a little bit about me, what are my opportunities, you really won't know. So I think we're doing a pretty good job meeting students, where they're at. I mean, we have record enrollment, the highest enrollment in the institution's history in over 125 years. So, I mean, I think that's a testament to the fact of how hard we as an institution, not just admissions, but financial aid, advancement, everybody is working to provide scholarships for students and other grant opportunities. And the state's working really hard. So if everybody works together and just, again, sees where the student is and the student does their part, more than likely, you'd be surprised. There's some students that told us that, hey, they never thought in a million years they'd be able to come to Lipscomb, and now are enrolled and they're having the time of their lives. But it just took taking the time, looking at the conversation, and them doing their part, and then we doing what we can do to help them.
That's awesome. Well, any last thoughts? I want to make sure that we direct people to our admissions website, which is www.lipscomb.edu/admissions.
Mm-hmm.
And I know through the month of October, our application fee is waived.
I'm glad you said that.
For anybody?
I'm glad you said that. So, I mean, the biggest thing I was going to push is, students are applying everywhere, and application fees, especially if you're applying to multiple schools, can get a little pricey. And so right now it's free app October. So if you go to lipscomb.edu/apply, you'll see, you go to the admissions page, you'll be able to see that you can apply for free. There's a code there, and through the month of October, you can apply. So there's no excuse for you to not get started with that process. So I would definitely push that. And again, we have Lipscomb Preview Week coming up November 9th through the 13th. Every single day, we're doing different virtual seminars to help students understand different things about Lipscomb. So we'll have a night that's just an introduction to admissions. We'll have some time that will talk about, hey, what are your next steps once you've been admitted? What does financial aid process look like? What does campus life look like? What does housing look like? So we'll have different days that kind of cover different topics, and hopefully those will give students a better insight to everything that Lipscomb University is trying to do to be the best institution for them.
Well, thanks a lot, Reggie. I think that's a good place for us to end. So I appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
Bison Talk is an award-winning podcast that takes a deep dive into today's current events and news with some of Lipscomb University's most interesting people. Bison Talk is produced by the Lipscomb University Office of Public Relations and Communications. Learn more about Lipscomb University at www.lipscomb.edu.